Tom Allen on a truly personal level for all his help, guidance, and friendship. You've been a true mentor to me, and I want to say I can't wait to work closely with you in the United States Senate. 5 years ago, the people in Maine's 2nd Congressional District honored me with the incredible opportunity to represent them in Congress. For someone who had punched a time clock for over 28 years, it was the proudest moment of my life. I made only one promise during that campaign. That's never to stop working as hard as the hardworking men and women of this state. I hope and believe that I've kept that promise. And I want to share with you tonight what I believe that we have accomplished together and what more that we still have to do working together. I want to talk tonight about beating the odds, going against the grain, and proving the naysayers wrong. Back when I served in the Maine Senate, all the pundits said that a mill worker could not become Senate President, let alone win a seat in Congress. But together, we proved them wrong. And when I went to Washington, the special interest said that a mill worker from northern Maine can't do anything to change our national failed trade policy. I knew firsthand, personal experience, that those policies had to change. I've seen my friends, my neighbors, my family members lose their jobs because of failed trade policies. In Maine, we've lost over 23% of our manufacturing base alone because of trade. You heard a lot about trade a little bit earlier from Lori Wallach, who is just a ball of energy, enthusiastic, and she never stops working. I'd get these emails from Lori at 3 a.m. in the morning talking about trade. But we rolled up our sleeves and we proved them wrong. We did create the bipartisan House Trade Working Group to advocate for fair trade deals, and we've got a lot done. Despite the previous trade agreement sailing through Congress, this time George Bush and Dick Cheney had to twist arms on the CAFTA trade deal by buying votes, holding the vote open until wee hours in the morning to win passage. And they only won passage by one vote. I think we serve notice to the powerful political interest in Washington that we are going to fight when it comes to fair trade. Our trade working group actually arranged meetings with both the Democratic presidential hopefuls to discuss their views on trade policy as recently as a month ago. And as a result, I am confident that whoever wins the nomination, we will indeed see a new direction on trade. And we've kept up the pressure. Speaker Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives, recently halted the Colombian free trade deal by changing the rules of the House because it's unfair trade deal. But just being against something is never enough. It's always important to say what you're going to do to change the problem. Bring new ideas, new policies. I'm about to introduce next week landmark legislation in Congress to completely overhaul the American trade policy, to restore accountability, to prevent our workers in our environment, to ensure that the level playing field and to protect interests of hard-working men and women all around this country and their communities before these multinational corporations decide to outsource all the jobs here in this country. In my first term in Congress, everyone said that it would be political suicide to vote against the $81 billion in supplemental funding for the Iraq War. I didn't listen to those voices. I did what I thought was right down deep in my heart and soul, and I voted no. But let me be clear, questioning this administration's handling of the Iraq War is not unpatriotic. It does not undermine our troops. Rather, speaking out for what is morally right is our single greatest duty as Americans. Continue to speak out until our troops are brought home. Speaking out what's morally right means also that we must hold this administration and all elected officials accountable for decisions they make in office. We are entrusted with the power of the people. We have the highest moral obligation to uphold the breath of trust that we are holding. People demand that we do what is right. And to breach that trust or to abuse their power to undermine the fundamental core of our democracy is wrong. It's time to clean up Washington, but we need your help to do that. We took a giant first step 2 years ago when the Democrats won back control of the House and the Senate. And when the leadership announced committee assignments, I was extremely proud that I have been elected to chair of the subcommittee for Veterans Health Care. If there's one thing today that all Americans agree on is that our great nation must support our troops, no matter how we feel about the war. But what about supporting these men and women after they take off their uniforms? What about honoring our promise to these men and women? Men and women remind our friends and neighbors that it is the Democratic Party that stands up each and every day for our veterans. It is the Democratic Party that will renew and modernize the GI Bill. It is the Democratic Party, despite opposition from George Bush and Republicans in Congress, that passed the largest VA healthcare funding in American history, almost $7 billion a year over the Republican budget. Democratic Party that has made the treatment of traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder, and substance abuse a priority for our veterans and their family. That is the Democratic legacy of support for our troops and our veterans. We all can be very proud of that.